Spencer Bivens is following him, Camilo Duvall, Lou Trevino. This is a guy that I want Giants fans to keep an eye on. He is throwing the ball extremely well. And Emmy Romero ends up the other bullpen pitcher that will be throwing in that game. The other game's going to go on in Mesa. Landon Roop, and I said earlier, he is just having a great spring so far, going 8 1/3 innings, only giving up 1 hit, 11 strikeouts, no walks. Of course, he is now putting a cutter in his 4-pitch mix. A nice fastball, a good curveball. The curveball is just so quick, a 12-6 curveball changeup, and then the cutter, and he's getting a lot of see-throughs on that. After Landon Root pitches, Tyler Rogers will be on the mound, then Randy Rodriguez, and Joey Lucchesi, the left-hander, trying to get a mix, trying to see if he can fit in this bullpen. And Eric Miller right now is the only one that Bob Melvin's talking about being a left-hander in the bullpen. 808 KNBR, if you want to give me a call, we're going to take a quick break and come back with more on the Extra Inning Postgame Show as we're talking more San Francisco Giants as we get closer to March 27, 2025 for the homeowner. Well, all right, we'll take a quick break, come back with more right here on the Sports Leader.
Bill is back.
Fired up, bringing it, all excited.
This is KNBR Extra Innings with Bill Laskey.
Sponsored by Lenardi's Markets of the Bay Area. Quite simply, the best.
Listen on your Google Home smart speaker by saying play KNBR.
And the 2-2 pitch. Chapman swings, hits a high fly ball, deep right field. It's carrying. Velasquez back. He's looking up. It's gone! Matt Chapman goes the other way. An opposite field 3-run home run.
All right, welcome back to the Extra Inning post-game show with Bill Laskey. Fans that came out to Oracle for the fourth stop for the Fan Fest, give me a call if you're still at the ballpark or leaving the ballpark on your way home, 808 KNBR. Let's talk about your energy that was built at Oracle Park and some of the things that you like about the San Francisco Giants as they start the 2025 season. My biggest concern right now is what's going to be on the bench. I think when you look at the starting nine, they're pretty solid. Then you have to look at what's the next layer. What could help the Giants? I think everybody's looking at Luis Matos possibly making that fourth outfield spot. Grant McCray, Wade Meckler are two names that are also possibly being as pinch runners. They're both the fastest runners in the orange and black. And then you got to look at the infield. And I think that's where it's really going to be a mix of what's going to happen once Tyler Fitzgerald is your starter at second base. Of course, you have Lamont Wade Jr. as well as Wilmer Flores playing first. Now you start looking at the backups. Brett Wisely, another great spring, had a nice double down the left field line. Casey Schmidt, who can play multiple positions, hitting the ball real well, hit a home run this week. And another name, Christian Koss, a kid that came over from the Red Sox, started with the Rockies. I sat down with him. You'll hear that interview later in the show. Really, really a good player. And he's really got his nose to the ground. He wants to show Giants fans as well as the front office and Bob Melvin that he belongs in the big leagues. He hasn't had that opportunity. But if you heard F.P. Santangelo talking to him during the game on KNBR, he is bought in. He thinks this kid has really, really done well in the spring, and he should deserve a shot, even though he might start in Sacramento. Well, that's a name that I think Giants fans are going to look at to see what possibilities are Bob Melvin looking at for the extra infielders. And then you got the veteran Arizona Diamondback, if we remember, Jake Lamb. Of course, he had a 30 home run year, had an injury or so, and now he's trying to get back to it. But that's one name that I think Bob Melvin's looking at as a veteran hitter coming off the bench. And here's the other position I think all Giant fans are looking at, and Murphy got hurt as the backup catcher. Of course, Patrick Bailey will play most of the time behind home plate. Max Stassi got his first hit today, and Sam Huff, a player they got off the waiver wire from the Texas Rangers, and that's a battle to be the backup catcher. I think one of the things that Bob Melvin, of course, being a catcher, as well as Buster Posey, are looking at a veteran leader that can really dispel how they work with the pitching staff. And this is going to be really, really a test of what's going to happen here in the next couple of weeks to see who's going to be that backup catcher. 808 KNBR, love to hear what your thoughts are on what I threw out there. Where's the strength coming off that bench, and what are some of the players, the utility players that you like that could make this 25-man roster? All right, let's go to San Francisco and talk to Mike. Mike, how are you? And a beautiful afternoon here in San Francisco.
All is well. Hey, Bill, what's the deal?
What do you mean, buddy?
Well, we got Wisely hitting 389 today. He hasn't done anything to take that job away from him.
Plus being left-handed, Mike, that's another possibility. He had a good year last year for the Giants, and every opportunity he's getting, he's putting the ball in play. He's just that pesky little hitter from the left-hand side. Big number 0 when you look at him on the infield.
Yeah, first pitch fastballs all day. I'm looking at Carson, like Marsha. Ragsdale today, 6'8". He's a tall drink of water, isn't he?
Yeah, starting staff. He'll be in the minor leagues, most likely back at AAA. He threw the ball well, just kind of ran out of gas. He got up to 60 pitches. Talking to some of the starting pitchers, they're probably between 40 and 50 right now. They'll push it out a little bit as this week goes. They've gone 3 innings. Verlander went 4, depending on how much on the pitch count. They'll just ramp this up as we get closer to the end of March.
That's good to hear. I got to
threw
say,
this out
Seymour
there,
looks
Mike.
like.
I want to throw this out to you, Mike. I threw it out there a minute ago about bench players. Where is the strength going to come off the bench? I threw some names out there. What do you think Bob Melvin's thinking about the bench players and what they can help the Giants with?
Okay. Bob Melvin has a 29% opportunity to win 90 games based off his career record. I think personally he's looking at guys like Wisely as a middle infielder. He's looking at guys he's built a foundation with.
Luis Matos, I think that's one that's
Luis Matos would definitely be out there in the outfield.
Yeah, and I'll throw this one to you. Speed off the bench. Grant McCray, Wade Meckler. I just don't know if he's willing to sacrifice young players to sit around on the bench to be that pinch runner, defensive replacement. And then you got to look at the infield side. Casey Schmidt, as you said, Brett Wisely, and Kristen Koss, a player that's getting a good shot. And I have an interview with him later in the show, and you'll get to know him a little bit.
I'm looking forward to the interview with Koss.
Mm-hmm. Good kid. Came through. Came through he's kind from Irvine. That's where he kind of grew up down in the south, and got drafted by the Rockies. Got traded to the Red Sox, and the Giants picked him up. His first full year with the Giants was last year. Started in Richmond, ended up in Sacramento. He just nose to the ball. That's what he says. I'm in there every day trying to get better, and you can't ask that from a young player.
Oh, that's definitely what we're looking for. That's all I got today. I think as far as our bullpen goes, before I go, with what Melvin might be looking at, there's a lot of competition there, and we've got 15 guys I'd love to see start for the Giants this year.
It's going to be a mix. It's going to be a mix. I think the biggest question, Mike, is there going to be two left-handers down there? Eric Miller got his first appearance today, and that's the second interview I have tonight. Eric Miller is talking about how he is going into the 2025 spring training and being a man on the roster. Last year, if you remember, he got sent down toward the end, then he got brought back up, and then he made the 25-man roster. A big mental side of changing that, but I think that's going to be a big concern if there'll only be one lefty in the bullpen or not.
Yeah, my thoughts were Harrison possibly. I really have Birdsong pegged as our next Tim, our next.
You think Birdsong will get that fifth starting spot? Huh?
Yeah, that's just me.
Landon Roop. Landon Roop's a name I think a lot of. Landon Roop, I think, is really getting a good play and being a starting pitcher for the Giants this spring, throwing the ball extremely well. He'll get a start tomorrow in Mesa against the Cubs. You got Roop, Harrison, and Birdsong all fighting for that fifth spot. And at the same time, they could easily start in AAA, and they're not going to take a step back. They're going to be waiting and pitching their tail off in Sacramento if they get sent down. But that's going to be a battle all the way till the end of spring.
Right. I think that we got a lot of competition. It'll breed success. We're going to have it there in Sacramento. And guys are going to get their opportunities this year at some point.
They sure are. Mike, thanks for the call. Enjoy the rest of the day. What a beautiful day it is today. And Giants fill the park up at FanFest. But have a good one, Mike.
Thank you, man.
Yep, and a lot of concerns. I think I don't think it's really concerns. I think it's just a big question mark on who could fill some of the spots that are open left on this Giants 25-man roster. And we're looking at today, when you're looking at March 8th and the opening day is at 27, still a lot of baseball to be played. And this is when you start looking at the starting lineups. You start looking at different players that play other positions. Casey Schmidt being one. He can play third. He can play short. He can play second. Good at bats this week. As I said, he hit a home run in that Arizona Diamondback game on Wednesday when the Giants came back and won that 11-5. Tomorrow we'll see a split squad with the San Francisco Giants staying home in Scottsdale. We'll have that game on KNBR right here with John and Dwayne. That'll be played against the San Diego Padres, who they tied on Tuesday when they went over to play San Diego. Tomorrow, as I said earlier, Jordan Hicks takes the mound. He's been throwing the ball extremely well for the Giants so far this spring. He is penciled in for the fourth starter in the five-man rotation. Spencer Bivens, Camilo Duvall, Lou Trevino, and Emmy Romero, a lefty, will be following him up when the Padres come over and play tomorrow. All right, we're going to take a quick break. 808 KNBR if you want to give me a holler. We'll talk more Giants baseball as the Extra Inning postgame show continues right here on KNBR, the sports leader.
You're listening to the former Giants righty. It's KNBR Extra Innings with Bill Laskey.
Sponsored by Lenardi's Markets of the Bay Area. Quite simply, the best.
Heard on your Apple HomePod by saying play KNBR.
But that was back on Tuesday. Here's a swing and a high drive. Deep right field. This one heading way back. It's gone! Over the Giants bullpen. Mike Yastrzemski launches one, a tape measure blast. And a 2-run home run here in the second gives the Giants a 2-0 lead.
Welcome back to the Extra Inning Postgame Show. As Joe Rizzo calling Mike Yastrzemski's home run. That was a full count fastball by Michael Wacha. Yaz did not miss it. That was his third home run in spring training. Great to see him swinging the bat like he is. And if you got to watch the game on NBC Bay Area, that was the first game they televised. They have another game on Tuesday against the Athletics. John Miller, Dwayne Kuiper doing the game today. And on KNBR, Joe Rizzo and FP Santangelo. So the Giants had all the announcers covering this game today. And sure enough, the Giants played extremely well, 7-3. 7 runs, 10 hits, 1 error. 808 KNBR if you want to get on the phone lines. If you're leaving Oracle Park from FanFest, give me a holler. Tell me what you thought about that. And if you got to watch the game or listen to the game, love to hear what your thoughts are. As I threw it out there, what will be the strengths of the San Francisco Giants coming off the bench this year? A lot of names being thrown out around there. And, of course, some of them are playing very well so far. Of course, Luis Matos having a great spring. He had a great winter in Dominican Republic as he played winter ball and ended up being the rookie of the year down there. And he's swinging the bat, got a nice base hit coming into the game today. But if you start looking at this lineup, and this is what Bob Melvin has been putting out there this week, he's trying to gauge. I think he's just trying to see how these guys are hitting, what their capabilities are, and what can he do. He's talking about speed. He wants to steal more bases. Of course, last year was just not a good year for them to steal bases. One of the worst teams stolen bases. This year, he wants to be more aggressive on the bases. You got a couple guys that are burners, Wade and Meckler being one, Grant McCray being the other. Grant McCray beat out an infield hit today with his speed. And, of course, when you look at Wade Meckler, he was injured last year, had to go through 4 different stops before he ended up being in Sacramento. And here's a guy that really we saw jump into the big leagues after only a year in the minor leagues. I sat down and talked to him this week, too, and I'll have that interview next weekend with Wade Meckler and how he is going positive with mental approach to the game and how he's working on just getting on base. I think these speed demons like Meckler and McCray, they have to get on top of that lineup and see what they can do with their speed, bunt, get guys over. And as I said, stolen bases. Let's get these guys on and see what they can do on the bases. Jung-Hoo Lee, another guy that we're starting to watch a little bit more of. Last year he got injured early. We really didn't see what he could do. We knew that he could play outfield. Coming over Korea, we just didn't know if he could hit American pitching. And last year we didn't see much of him. He only got maybe a month in, maybe a little less than that, and he got injured with the separated shoulder and the broken collarbone, and he went through a whole year of rehab. He's solid now. Listening to Matt Chapman and Willie Adames, they're making good friendships with him, bringing him into conversations, making him feel a little bit part of this team in the middle of the order, and I think that's what this team is doing. They're gelling. I don't know if anybody got to see MLB Network. They ended up stopping in Scottsdale to talk to some of the players as well as Bob Melvin, and some of the conversations were great. Logan Webb, just a positive person, and you can't say anything bad about Logan Webb. He is the most positive pitcher in that clubhouse. He's the number 1 pitcher as an ace, and he says he's still learning. He's still trying to create a new pitch, maybe refine something, maybe just to throw an off-speed pitch a little bit better, and he's got one of the best changeups in the game. And then Willie Adames, how happy he is to be in the orange and black uniform, signed a big contract, and he is making a big part of that clubhouse and just trying to help kids, trying to help the younger players along to play defense and show them the proper way to be a professional baseball player. Willie Adames is a class person. Bob Melvin, as well as Buster Posey, said when they were looking to sign him, they wanted to hear more about him. and they ended up talking to a lot of players on the Brewers side, and they just said nothing but positive things for him in the clubhouse, how he gels with team, and of his positivities, just coming out playing baseball, playing it the right way. And if you got that, and you have Matt Chapman, of course, signing a big deal last year, one of the best moves that Buster Posey did in the late part of Faranzites in the last part of the year last year. Buster Posey had him over for dinner and wanted to hear what he thought about playing with the Giants. He didn't want to go anywhere. He felt this organization was strong. He felt it was on the right way by having Bob Melvin being his manager, Matt Williams also being his counterpart all the way back with the Oakland A's days. And when you start listening to these guys gelling, you start hearing the positivity of them with the team. Those are all good signs. That's what Giants fans want to see. You heard it earlier, one of the calls. It's just something we want to gel with. Sure, you're playing in the NL West, one of the best leagues in baseball. But when you start believing in each other and you start believing what you can do and you start believing if it's not me, it's somebody else, it does make a team get stronger. It makes them believe in each other. And when you look at the lineup that Bob Melvin's throwing out there with Lamont Wade Jr. being the DH, he could possibly play first base, leading off. Bob Melvin raves about his eye. He gets walks. He got a walk today in his third inning to get on base before Matt Chapman hit the 3-run home run. Lamont Wade Jr., perfect guy to lead off. We got to worry about his legs. Of course, he had hamstring issues. If he gets on base, he's been going first to third in a lot of situations in spring, and he's healthy. He says he's healthy. Then you got to look at Willie Adames, one of the big home run hitters. Had 30 stolen bases last year. Here's a guy hitting in the second spot, could go deep. Had a couple home runs this week. He can hit you base hits. He got a base hit in the fifth inning. And, one hit, 2 hits a game. This is a guy that's going to really get on base for the Giants. And then you start going into the 3, 4, 5 hitters. We always talk about having that big thumper in the middle of the lineup. Encarnacion could be that DH. He could be that guy that could thump 20 to 25 home runs. We're hoping, because he looks like he will be slotted in that DH role along with Lamont Wade Jr. It looks like that's what Bob Melvin's doing. Of course, you also have Wilmer Flores that could fit that role too. But I think with Jung-Hoo Lee in that third spot, I was a little, questionable about it. I didn't really think he could fit there. I thought he would be a better leadoff hitter. But Bob Melvin has spoke really highly about him, watching pitches, being aggressive at times, and he's got a good eye also. And here's a guy that beat out a ground ball today. Could have been a double play, and he ended up beating it out and getting an RBI. Little things like that count. Little things like that add up. More runs score. You're on the bases more. Jung-Hoo Lee could be that guy in that third hole that could surprise us with a 20 or 25 home run year. He can hit the ball out of the ballpark. And his speed in the outfield, a good defensive outfielder, it's going to be exciting to watch him play, and hopefully he'll make through a whole year without injuries, because I think last year that was a big hole they missed, him playing center field. They had him penciled in center field. Of course, we saw Elliot Ramos play out there so long, and it just wasn't Elliot Ramos in center field. I think he's more of a corner outfielder, and I think that's what Bob Melvin's looking at. And then you got Matt Chapman in a 4-hole. He's having a great spring, 4 home runs right now, and 15 at-bats. Really stroking the ball well. They were kidding with him. Mark DeRosa was talking to him about his guns. He's a little bigger. He said he worked out a little longer in the weight room this year, and it's really pushing the ball, hitting the ball, making good contact. And what can you say about a platinum Gold Glove winner at third base? Just remarkable hands, remarkable strength of going either which way. Today he made 2 sensational plays on a little hopper where he barehanded it through sideways to first base to Wilmer Flores, and then the last one down the third base line where he stepped back, caught it on the edge of the grass on the third base line, and threw a bullet over to first base to end the inning. Just good defense from the Platinum Gold winner. And he is one of the best, if not the best. Then you start looking at Elliot Ramos in the 5-hole. He's going to have a lot of pressure there. That's a possibility of getting RBIs. That's a hole in the order that is a big question mark. Can he hang in there? Can he adapt to what they're going to do to him this year after last year? The second half wasn't a big plus for him. There was a lot of question marks on the approach, striking out a lot, watching the ball for strike 3. He's got to get a little bit better. Encarnacion could fit that bill also if he DHs. Mike Yastrzemski's next. And we love Mike Yastrzemski on the defensive side. Of course, last year didn't have the numbers. Of course, the elevated fastball got him a lot. The curveball out of the zone, swing and misses. This year, being a little more complacent, being a little more aggressive with the ball in the zone. And today had a nice home run ball, a 2-run home run in the second inning as Michael Wacha fell behind 3-0. He chased him to 3-2 and hit a bullet out to right field. Love to see more of that. Then Wilmer Flores could play first base. He could be down in the 7 spot. Tyler Fitzgerald is going to be your question mark at second base. Can he fit that bill in the defensive side? He's got great range, and we've seen him. I still think Fitzgerald could steal you 15 to 20 bags too. The batting average last year kind of dipped toward the second half, and we'll see what he does in the bottom part of the order. And then you got Patrick Bailey. I think Bailey could fit in a little higher in the batting order and push Fitzgerald down maybe in the 9th hole and have more speed at the 9 spot, and then you come back to the 5 or first spot. And I love that in any type of order where you have speed coming around from the 9 hole and you get him on base, then you got the top of the order to fill it. 808 KNBR, if you like what I'm talking about. What do you like about this lineup? I love this lineup right now. They're going to have to hit consistently. This is the whole thing about the San Francisco Giants. Injuries will plague them. They don't have a lot of older players filling in. We talk about what they have behind them. You talk about Luis Matos, Grant McCray, Wade Meckler is your outfield. They did not go out and get a free agent outfielder. They think the kids can fill in and produce, which I believe too. Luis Matos, I really believe, is going to have a really big year this year. Had a good year last year, slumped a little bit in the month of June and really couldn't get back on track in July. Grant McCray, same thing. A lot of strikeouts, putting the ball in play would be great to see him and use his speed. Wade Meckler's a guy that I've always liked, a guy that puts the ball in play, a contact type of hitter. And he's got speed, and he can play the corners as well as center field. So there's some names out there for the outfield position, the infield the same. What can they do when you see Adames and Chapman playing under over 150 games? These guys aren't going to come out of the lineup. So you got to have some strength on the bench. Love to hear what you think the San Francisco Giants need. We'll take a quick break. 808 KNBR if you want to get on the phone lines. Talk about some of the things I threw out there, Giants fans. Had a great day at Oracle Park. Giants had a great day in Scottsdale. Over 10,000 fans filled the stands in Scottsdale as the Giants won 7-3. I'm Bill Laskey. This is the Extra Inning Postgame Show. More coming up right here on KNBR, the Sports Leader.
From the mound to the mic, this is KNBR Extra Innings with Bill Laskey.
Sponsored by Lenardi's Markets of the Bay Area. Quite simply, the best.
Hear him by saying to your smart speaker, play KNBR.
A look towards second as he comes set. And the 2-2 is swung on and missed. 96 with a fastball. Strikes out Waters. 3 strikeouts in the inning as Eric Miller gets through it.
Back on the Extra Inning postgame show with Bill Laskey, as Joe Risso talked about Eric Miller. That was his first appearance this year. Through some minor league games, had a little issue, but nothing, too cautious. They just want to make things cautious right now. You don't want to push kids, especially in Eric Miller, who's just coming back from a great season and the 2024 season, where he pitched in 73 games. When you're looking at 77 games by Tyler Rogers, 76 by Ryan Walker, and you got the only lefty to Bob Melvin's got signed up for this 25-man roster, and Eric Miller. 73 games last year, 67 in a third innings, gave up 50 hits, 7 home runs, but the walks were high. 38 walks, 87 strikeouts. In the interview that I have coming up, we really dive into the walks and how he really is trying to manage not giving up walks. It's so hard coming out of the bullpen to throw strike after strike. He has worked on a couple different pitches, a two-seamer he had back in college, but he's really going fastball changeup, and today he punched out 3. Gave up a little ground ball, base hit, and just got under Fitzgerald's glove to his left. Hit by pitch, got a fastball running in, but other than that, just like Joe Rizzo and John Miller and Dwayne said, punched out 3, and that's what Eric Miller can do. As you talk about 87 strikeouts in 67 innings, that's 20 more than what innings pitch, or I should say 67 and a third if you want to get to the point of it. But great job by Eric Miller again today, and we'll see a little bit more of him. He's got a couple weeks left to tune up, but really threw the ball good today in the mid-90s. Giants win today 7-3. Tomorrow you'll hear them right back on KNBR. They're playing the Padres in Scottsdale. Don't forget, tonight, daylight savings time changes at 2 a.m. to move the clocks forward, so we'll be on the exact time as Arizona, so the game will be at 1:05. Jordan Hicks takes the mound, Spencer Bivens, Camilo Duvall, Lou Trevino, and I keep throwing that name out. Of course, we remember him with the Oakland A's as a closer, and he has thrown a ball in the mid-90s. Great 3-pitch mix that he brings up. And Emmy Romero, a left-hander, 34-year-old pitcher that's trying to fit in, trying to get in this bullpen if Bob Melvin wants to go to a 2-lefty in the bullpen to add to the bullpen. And then tomorrow also a split squad, and Giants fans know split squad, half the team goes somewhere and the other team stays at home. Tomorrow they'll be going over to play the Chicago Cubs in Mesa, and that's where the split squad will be divided. Landon Roop having a sensational spring so far, going almost 8 1/3 innings, 11 strikeouts, only giving up 1 hit, no walks. And he's been working on a cutter, and his changeup's been really filthy. And, of course, he's mid-90s, high 90s. Tyler Rogers will come in after him. Of course, the Submarine Artist is another having a great spring. Randy Rodriguez, another hard thrower, still trying to fit in that bullpen somewhere in the middle and maybe long. And then Joey LaCasey, a left-hander that's had some issues with injury. He's doing well, too. So a lot of names, a lot of people on that whiteboard, if you know what I'm talking about. In Bob Melvin's office, there's a huge whiteboard, all these names up there. They did make a couple cuts this week. Luciano ended up going down to Triple-A, and he'll be in the minor leagues. So a lot of things moving on. There'll be more cuts as the spring training will get going. Some more players will be sent out to the minor leagues to get more work, and we'll find out as the spring training continues. That's what's great about the spring. Great weather today in Scottsdale. Giants win 7-3. I'm Bill Laskey. You're going to listen to me talk to Eric Miller coming up next. We're going to talk about a lot of things with Eric as he dives into what he wants to get better through the spring. And, of course, having a full year under his belt gets him a lot of advantage, an advantage over hitters, advantage of how he prepares to get into games, the mindset, the arm set. So sit back. Eric Miller coming up next right here on KNBR, the sports leader.
This is KNBR Extra Innings with former Giants right-hander Bill Laskey.
Sponsored by Lenardi's Markets of the Bay Area. Quite simply, the best.
Hear him on your Apple HomePod by saying play KNBR. Play KNBR.
Welcome back to the Extra Inning Postgame Show with Bill Laskey. My guest did a great year his first year in the big leagues, the left-hander, also throwing for Stanford. Let's bring in Eric Miller. Eric, how are you today?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing good. Spring training is upon us. How are you? What is your expectations, and what are some of your goals this year?
Yeah, I mean, I feel good. After last year, felt really positive. Just being able to make it in big leagues for the first time, and then on top of that, be able to stay up for the entire year from making the open day roster was a pretty cool thing to look back on after the fact. Yeah, I feel good. Definitely a little bit more comfortable this year as far as in spring training. I feel like I have the ability to do a little more tinkering and work on some things and not feel like I have to go out there from the start and feel like I'm kind of fighting for a spot on the team. So it's nice to have that leeway to work on some new pitches and not kind of feel that pressure. Yeah, I mean, as far as expectations, it's only to improve on what I did last year. Last year was fine, but I have a lot higher expectations and standards and what happened. And, now that I've kind of been through it one time, I have an idea of what it's like pitching in the big leagues, the day-to-day stuff from that. I feel like I've pretty well prepared moving forward to make some more jumps going into this year.
Well, Eric, let's talk about last year. A real strange spring training. You get an option down to AAA. Bob Melvin brings you back up. Next thing you know, you're on the opening day roster. Mentally, that had to kind of change a little bit. You really didn't understand what all the moves were, but boy, it worked out great. Tell us a little bit about spring training last year.
Yeah, it was definitely interesting. I mean, as I've stated before, they definitely tried to make it known that it wasn't a end-all be-all thing where, that was it, and I'm going to start the year in the minor leagues. But, I mean, it was certainly at the time really disappointing especially to kind of just be among the first wave of cuts in spring training. I definitely took it pretty hard just because I felt like I had a pretty good chance, because even last year was a similar situation. There was really, you had Taylor, and that was about it as far as left-handed guys. So there was a lot of guys competing for that second spot. So I felt like I had a really good chance for that. And to be optioned so early was kind of a gut punch. But like I said, they made it clear it wasn't the end of the world. They wanted me to keep working on stuff and stay ready. And then, yeah, I kind of ended up in a full 360 towards the end. I've said I kind of had a feeling the last couple of days that something might be happening, that they still had me around up in the city for the Bay Bridge stuff. So, and then they, told me that I ended up making the team. So
it turned out pretty well for you, Eric. Opening day, and you stayed up the entire year. Looking at some of your numbers, 73 games you were in, and of course Tyler Rogers was in 77. He led the National League, and Ryan Walker was right behind him, and you were right there as the lone left-hander. Of course, you just mentioned it, Taylor Rogers being traded. You're the only left-hander right now in that bullpen. And I think more and more as you get through spring training, you'll find out if there'll be another left-hander to complement you. Is there any discussion on where you'll be, a setup man, middle row, of anything right now with Bob Melvin?
No, we haven't talked about that yet. And it's whatever it ends up being, it is what it is. I'm not, it's not my place to say anything. But I mean, I'm not going to speak for Bob, but if I had to imagine, I think it'd be a fairly similar kind of role as to last year, as ideally a lot of times kind of coming in that probably 6th or 7th inning area, when whatever those kind of couple innings where the left-handed pocket ideally in a lineup is coming up, and then best case scenario, you're either handing over to Camillo, or then if it's in the 8th, Ty, and then Walker. So I think still, kind of more trying to find the areas in the other lineup where I can best be deployed, I guess you would say. And then maybe, the days that some of those guys in the backhand aren't available, then maybe I get to slide into some of those innings. But yeah, we haven't talked about it yet. But if I had to guess, I think it would be a fairly similar role.
Yeah, that sounds right. And it sounds a great compliment to you as well as that bullpen and being in the different roles. And you can manage it. As I said, 73 games. Let's talk a little bit about the final lines. 87 punch-outs, 50 hits. But I'm sure you look at those 38 walks and you're like, okay, I got to get in that zone a little bit more. That 0-1 pitch Tyler Roger talks about so much. And I'm sure that's what Garvin Alston and JP Martinez is driving to try to get ahead of hitters. Is this something that you're going to try to improve on?
Yeah, that's definitely nailed on the head. That's the biggest thing outside of just obviously the walks. And I think that's been the biggest thing so far in camp. That's been preached is just first pitch strikes, and then as far as that, we kind of have a daily leaderboard, which every guy that throws in the game, they have a couple different things, just first pitch strikes, percent in zone and percent of your fastball in the zone, and whoever is the highest thing kind of wins. But so that's really even more so applies to me just because throughout my whole career and, especially the last couple of years, as you get up, you start to realize even more how much the first pitch strike matters to big league guys, especially, and then how much for me it just allows everything else to open up and allows all my stuff to play as I get ahead in the counts. It really puts me in an advantageous spot. So yeah, that's definitely the biggest thing is just get ahead of guys, stay ahead, and eliminate the walks. I know if those come down, I'm not going to get beat by just getting beat around the yard. It's going to be more so by giving guys free passes, and then maybe you give up the one. Sure. One hard hit ball.
We're talking about your repertoire pitches. Of course, the high-velocity fastball you bring all the time, breaking ball also. Is there anything else you're looking at to improve on, maybe an off-speed pitch, a changeup?
Yeah, so I've changed my slider kind of from being a bigger sweeper type of pitch that you see a lot of guys throw to more of a really small, technical term gyro slider. So something that's really small and has a lot higher velocity, something that stays in the zone a lot longer. Something I used to throw 3 or 4 years ago when I was with the Phillies organization, and it used to work out really well for me, and then I kind of got away from it. So something that just is going to be allowing me to throw more strikes, back to what we were talking about, just being in the zone a lot more. And then also actually, I've added a sinker, something again I also haven't thrown since I was a sophomore in college. And it's just something that gives me another weapon against lefties, so they can't kind of just key on me staying away on them. You can kind of throw something to blow them up in their hands, and then you open everything back up. So technically, I guess I have 4 pitches now instead of 3. I'm getting a lot of jokes about me going back to being a starting pitcher just because of how many pitches now I throw. And I was like, well, I did start 10 games last year. I guess you could sort of call me a starter. But so yeah, those are the kind of 2 things which are, again, it's just kind of trying to keep adapting. And, guys now have a year. Obviously, teams have all this data on me now, and maybe trying to kind of change it up and add something else to the table to keep me ahead of the curve.
Oh, sure. No doubt about it. And it's always seeing what you're coming in with from the bullpen, the different pitches at different times. And anytime you can add another weapon in your arsenal, it's always going to be effective. I want to ask you a little bit about what's going on in spring training with the ABS system. Of course, that's the automated ball and strike. Do you like it? Have you seen it? I know you had a little bit in AAA, but this time in the big leagues, I think it's working well so far.
Yeah, I haven't seen. I've seen a couple clips, so if I remember correctly, kind of what they're using now to determine what the zone is, I believe was pretty similar to the last month or so in 2023 when I was in AAA. So I feel like I have a decent idea of it. I feel like I have a pretty similar kind of way of looking at it most people, where I think generally it's good just to try and eliminate those massive, game-changing calls that are, the real big ones. Everybody wants to eliminate the big miss. Umpiring is such a hard job. Those ones that miss by half an inch, it's like, tell a normal person to get back in there and try to tell that from 100-mile-an-hour fastball coming in if it's a half inch off the plate. It's really hard. But, those really big ones that you just can't have. I think it's good for that. It definitely punishes more so certain pitchers, someone like me that likes to throw at the top of the zone with a fastball, but that's kind of just something when you were in AAA you learn to adjust to. And if anything, it helps you out because it gets you kind of more in the zone. You can't really try to nibble and throw it up and really high up in the zone. So overall, I like it. Long-winded way of saying I think it's good overall. When it's going to become a real thing, I'm not sure, but I think it's good.
Eric Miller joined me on Extra Innings for a few more minutes. We talk about defense. Defense is a big, big play out of the bullpen, guys coming in. Of course, guys are on base. A lot of PFPs in spring training. Are you bored now doing the PFPs, or are you still out there every morning?
Yeah, we don't, we try to kind of mix it up about what you're doing, and it's not as much, the first week or so before the game starts, you try to really bang them out. But yeah, even like today, we were kind of just doing a drill kind of with these soft, almost foam balls and shooting them really hard out of the machine and kind of a competition between pitchers splitting us up in a group. So they try to keep it at least fun for us where we're not just doing the monotonous stuff of just having a fun go hit PFPs at you and, covering first every day. So they try to at least make it fun, which you can appreciate because obviously you get 2-3 weeks in, you kind of want to bang your head against the wall doing it. But so it's good. But like I said, it's important. Especially with, relievers coming in, guys on base, like those are the biggest moments of the game. You got to be ready to fill your position. It's crazy with all through 73 times last year, I fielded 2 balls in 73 outings. So you never know when it's going to happen. It happens more for other guys, but you have to be ready. So.
No doubt. Last one for you, Eric. Over the winter, I got to see you working out at Oracle Park, but at the same time, what did you do? What did you do to relax for a little bit and take some time off?
The big vacation, I went to Kauai with fiance, so that was good. And I'm a huge golf guy, so that's kind of my thing to do during the off season as much as I can, just get out there and hit the links. Just kind of to keep exploring the city. I've lived there a couple of years now, but there's always so many different things that I don't know about or haven't done before. And that's kind of part of the reason why I love it so much in San Francisco, is because there's so many cool things to do there all the time, especially in the off season. That's, the best time of the year there weather-wise. So it's really good, but nothing too crazy, just kind of one big vacation and then hanging out in the city.
Well, Eric, you're a big part of that bullpen. Looking forward to another great year, and I thank you for your time today.
I appreciate it. No problem.
Eric Miller on Extra Innings. More coming up right here on KNBR, the sports leader.
KNBR Extra Innings with Bill Laskey keeps the postgame rolling live right here.
Sponsored by Lenardi's Markets of the Bay Area. Quite simply, the best.
On KNBR 104.5 FM and 680 AM, the sports leader.
Making the drive from Surprise. Here is a swing and a miss. Back to the split. And Keaton Wynn strikes out Melendez on 3 pitches to complete a 1-2-3 inning.
Back on the extra inning post-game show with Bill Laskey, and Joe Rizzo was talking about Keaton Wynn. Of course, Keaton Wynn had an arm injury last year, and he's so much better this year already, throwing in the mid-90s with that devastating split finger, trying to work on a better crisp breaking ball, and really he threw extremely well today. He got in a nice 1-2-3 inning, his first inning with 2 punch-outs with that split finger. And then the second inning got in trouble with a base hit and a double, and it was second and third with nobody out, and sure enough, here he was. Biggio with a strikeout, Waters with a strikeout, and Wave, R-A-V-E, hit a ball off his ankle that ended up proceeding to Willie Adames, who picked it up and threw to first base. So he had a nice 2-inning stint with 2 hits, 4 strikeouts, and no walks, and we talk about these no walks, and I think Giants fans are going to love this. The walks, of course, last year hurt them. This year, today, Keaton Wynn goes 2 innings, no walks. Ryan Walker precedes him with a 1-inning, 1-2-3 inning. Eric Miller goes 1 inning, his first in big league camp, gives up a little ground ball base hit, and ends up hit by pitch later in that inning, but he ended up throwing 3 strikeouts to get out of the inning. He was in mid-90s. We talked just now about Eric Miller and some of the different pitches he's trying to do, and I liked what he said. You know, we talk about pitchers knowing hitters. Well, hitters know what the pitchers threw. I go back in time when Tony Gwynn was there, and I had to pitch against Tony Gwynn. Tim Flannery was telling me stories about what Tony Gwynn did, and Tony Gwynn used to take the VHS tapes back in our day in the 80s. That's all you had, and he would look at what the pitchers threw, what different styles of pitches they threw at different counts. He was so ahead of the game. He was so much mature on what he had to proceed to make himself such a great hitter. He didn't strike out much, but he understood what pitchers did in certain counts in certain situations. And that's kind of what Eric Miller just said about what he wanted to do to change it up a little bit. He just didn't want to come throw mid-90s fastballs and a changeup. He wants to work on a couple more pitches to bring in this combination of pitches. A 2-seamer. Something that is off speed that just moves into a lefty, away to a righty. If you can come up with these pitches, and we've seen it, we've talked about it already in spring training. We talk about Landon Root throwing a cutter. It's maybe 2 or 3 miles an hour less than his fastball, and it moves east to west. Something different that hitters don't know. Verlander, of all people, 42 years old, working on an off-speed curveball. He's been throwing it, punched out a couple guys against the White Sox with it. So you get these pitches and you start learning about them. You trick the minds of the hitters. You're trying to throw something else in the combination of pitches that hitters don't know about until they see it the second, third time for starters. But the relievers coming in like Eric Miller, if you can throw a different pitch in there to get a strike or a quick ground ball, a quick out, boy, that adds in so fast. And, of course, Eric Miller is a devastating fastball in the high 90s. As he said, he likes to throw the elevated fastball, and he gets a lot of strikeouts that way. Well, you know, in spring training, I love to talk to new players. I love to introduce new players to the Giants fans and the fan base, and today was a great time to bring Christian Koss on. Christian played a little bit in today's game, a great defender, really sat down and talked about who he is, where he came from, how do we know him, and how did he become a Giant. So sit back. Christian Koss coming up next, a player that's really opening eyes for the San Francisco Giants, as well as Bob Melvin and his coaching staff, a determined young man to try to make pressure on these other guys to see if Christian Koss can make this 25-man roster. I'm Bill Laskey. This is the Extra Inning Postgame Show. Christian Koss coming up next right here on KNBR, the Sports Leader.
Bill is back.
Fired up, bringing it, all excited.
This is KNBR Extra Innings with Bill Laskey.
Sponsored by Lenardi's Markets of the Bay Area. Quite simply, the best.
Listen on your Google Home smart speaker by saying play KNBR.
Welcome back to the Extra Inning Post-Game Show with Bill Laskey. My guest today, Bob Melvin, really raved about his defense. I love learning about new players. Let's bring in Christian Koss. Christian, how are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great, Christian. Let's just get right into it. You grew up in Riverside, California, down south. What did you like about the game of baseball? Did you like any players? Did you follow anybody when you were growing up?
Yeah. I mean, what first drew me to the game of baseball, I guess, was the intricacies of it. As a young kid, they're trying to teach you all the rules and everything, and I felt like every time I got out there, I learned something new. And, still to this day, that's how it goes. Growing up, I'd say I was a big Cal Ripken fan.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it was the feat he was able to do will never be touched, and that's kind of what I try to strive for as a player, being able to play every day.
Well, no question about it. You have great glove control at shortstop, second base, and third base. And you say Cal Ripken, now you're playing a little bit with Willie Adames at shortstop. How have you learned a little bit about him so far in spring?
Yeah, well, I mean, he's been really good. He's very approachable, very knowledgeable. I think a lot of the stuff with him is just trying to figure out how he does the moves a little quicker, but he's been great.
One of the questions we always ask is, how much work do you do every day? How much early work do you do? How much time do you do at second base, shortstop? And you've played some third. How much stuff do you do in the morning to get you ready for these games?
Yeah, it kind of just depends on where I'll be in that day. The fact that I've been kind of going all around the infield, that morning I'll know if I'm in at second or short, and get in those reps that day, and then seeing it during BP that day, get them live reads.
Well, going back in time, you also went to college at UC Irvine. You got drafted by the Colorado Rockies in 2019. In 2020, you got traded to the Red Sox. And sure enough, the Giants picked you up in 2024. Tell us a little bit about the college days and your time with the Rockies and the Red Sox.
Yeah, college was a great experience. Irvine was the best fit for me. Great place, great facility, great staff. Got to the Rockies and did more instructs for them than I did spring training with the whole COVID year. But yeah, loved my time there. And then time with the Red Sox was just a time to grow. Spent 3 years with them and was able to grow as a player, and fortunate enough to find my way to the Giants.
In 2022, you got invited to the Boston Red Sox big league camp as a non-roster. What were some of the players that you were watching there, and who was the manager back then, and what kind of relationship did you have with some of the Red Sox players?
Yeah, so it was Alex Cora still back then, and he was great. He was a great team manager, great player guy. Story was rehabbing then, so it was cool to see his work and how he was coming back. I got to be with Tristan Casas, before he was the rookie that he was, and get to see his intricacies and his attention to detail and how he works, and those are some different cats.
Well, when you come back from two different organizations, mostly Rockies and the Red Sox, now you get traded over to the Giants, and you really played extremely well in 2024. You were Eastern League Player of the Week. You started out in Richmond, ended up in Sacramento. How did you like Richmond going to Double-A? And then you jumped to Sacramento, and you had a pretty good season. Tell me a little bit about both of them.
Yeah, Richmond was a great time. I mean, I think that's a great baseball town. The coaching staff over there was phenomenal. Pelf is the man. And I think we had a good squad there. I know a lot of those guys got moved up, and I was able to play with them in SAC. Some of those guys made it to the bigs. But I think it was just the group of guys was really solid. And, the second I made it to Sacramento, I didn't know many guys, but felt very welcomed and was able to gel pretty easily.
And you had a real good season in Sacramento. And, you know, when you start thinking about all the players that have been moving up and down, and I just love that the Giants brought you as a non-roster player because your defense is spectacular. You made a nice cut relay last Sunday with Grant McCray. Some of the plays at shortstop that I watched on MLB Network that game were just phenomenal. Your range to the left, your backhand to the right. I mean, some of the things that are just natural. And how do you grow? How do you get better doing that?
I think it's just consistency with it. You know, I think the biggest thing is making the routine play and making the hard play look routine. You know, so I going forward, like just knowing my role will be all over the infield and being able to, you know, grow as a second baseman with double play feeds or whatnot. It grows a third baseman on certain backhands and stuff. You know, there's always work to be done.
Well, you're definitely a baseball lifer because in the winter you went to winter ball. I also did that.
Sure.
I went to winter ball. I went to Puerto Rico, Venezuela, and Colombia. You ended up going to Puerto Rico and Dominican Republic. It's a different lifestyle, and you have to jump in and meet new players, knowing what to eat, where to go. What did you think about Dominican and Puerto Rico? Because you're laughing because I know exactly what you're thinking.
Yeah. You know, I love my experience with both of them. And I think what I come back and tell everybody is, I mean, the appreciation you get for the Latin players who come out here and play. You know, I think especially in DR, Puerto Rico's a little more Americanized. You know, but DR, that's a different culture, a different thing. And, you know, as I said, you sympathize and understand what those Latin guys come through on this side, you know, being away from family and, you know, not being able to talk to the waiter, or being able to order things, you know?
I was right there with you, and I tell you what, when you first get there, you're like, what am I doing here? I know I want to play baseball, but where do I go? It's not like home, and there's no quick restaurants to go to, and you're absolutely right. You go in there, and you're reading menus, and you're like, what the hell am I going to eat? I just got to point to something. But it is definitely an experience. I'm so glad you did it. And again, you're playing good baseball when you go to winter ball, too.
Thanks, yeah.
You know, one of the things, Christian, you know, as you get older and you're starting to play a little bit better in AAA and get in the big leagues, what are some of the things that you want to get better at? What are some of the things? Is it the offensive side? Is it the defensive side? What are some of the advantages you're going to get better once you leave spring training?
I think it's definitely more offensive. I mean, on the defensive side, like I said, it's refining myself at each position, feeling comfortable at every spot in the infield. Offensively, I think it's proving the consistency with the bat. I've never lacked confidence of the hit tool, or nor do I think I have improved it. I think it's just consistency with the pitches I swing at, and you know, I think I've worked on the chase rate. The chase rate's gone down, and that obviously leads to more success. The less you swing at bad stuff, the more likely you're swinging at good stuff. So I think just to consistently do that and, you know, find my way on base. I think a big part of my game is base running. I'm fast, not the fastest, but I think that I do enough on the bases that make it harder for teams to stop and easier for us to score runs.
That voice you hear on the Extra Running postgame show is Christian Koss, a non-roster player, but boy, opening up a lot of eyes in the front office as well as Bob Melvin and his coaching staff, doing a great job on the defensive side and also getting some great at-bats. Christian, when you walk away from the game, you're at home at nighttime, how do you relax? What do you do?
I have a daughter. I have a daughter named Isla, and I love hanging out with her, my wife. That's always the easiest reset, you know, being able to go home to her and be able to be a father to her and do whatever she needs. And, you know, that's the easiest way to get your mind off baseball.
Christian, how old is she?
She just turned 2. Yeah, she's a spring training baby. So.
Oh, beautiful, beautiful. So you're watching a lot of Nickelodeon and some of the other shows, or is she not even watching that yet?
No, we'll get a little bit of screen, but she loves to sing and dance, read books. She loves animals. So, you know, she's getting good with those and being able to identify. So, yeah, it's just awesome seeing her grow.
So what kind of music you listen to, Christian?
Oh, I listen to everything. I'm more of a old school R&B rap guy, but yeah, I like to think I have a good selection.
What about food? I know probably the wife's making food at home for you and your daughter, but what are some of the favorite foods you like?
Yeah, like I said, anything my wife makes is pretty darn good. I'm half Mexican, so I love Mexican food, rice, beans, carne asada, and in a burrito and nachos, anything that'll get me.
Well, you're in the right state in Arizona to get all that down there, because there's Mexican restaurants at every corner.
Oh, yeah.
Well, listen, thank you so much for jumping on with me. I appreciate your time. And Orange and Black, buddy, you're doing a great job, and I just want to wish you the best of luck finishing up spring training.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
That was Christian Koss on the Extra Inning Postgame Show. More coming up right here on KNBR, the Sports Leader.
The game may be over, but we know you want to talk more ball. So KNBR Extra Innings with Bill Laskey continues.
Sponsored by Lenardi's Markets of the Bay Area. Quite simply, the best.
We are KNBR 104.5 and 6.8, the sports leader.
Welcome back to the Extra Inning Postgame Show with Bill Laskey as we wind down a Saturday. Giants fans really enjoyed Oracle Park today as the last fan fest was thrown out there, and the Giants fans really had a good time up there. And in Scottsdale Stadium, the Giants entertained the Kansas City Royals and won that game 7-3. 3 home runs, Mike Yastrzemski hitting his third, Matt Chapman hitting his fourth, and Davey Yard hitting his first. 7 pitchers ended up throwing for the San Francisco Giants. Keaton Wynn, Ryan Walker, Eric Miller really threw the ball well for the San Francisco Giants in that win. I had Eric Miller and Christian Koss on. If you missed those interviews, they can be on all KNBR podcasts. As Kyle Haar, my producer, did a great job. He'll be putting those podcasts up after the show today. Pistons and the Warriors are playing today. After the game, Dubs OT with Kyle Haar, as well as John Dickinson. You can hear them live right here on KNBR. Tomorrow, the Giants have 2 games. They have a split squad game. They play the San Diego Padres at Scottsdale, Jordan Hicks on the hill. And then the Cubs will be entertaining the Giants in Mesa. Landon Roop will be pitching in that game. Don't forget daylight savings time. Move your clocks up forward as the games now will be played at 1:05. That's right, 1:05. We're on the same time as the state of Arizona. For Bill Laskey and the Extra Inning postgame show, we'll be following up that game tomorrow on Sunday. Erwin Higueras will join me as one of my guests, and Wade Meckler as we talk about hitting. Two great guests, two good interviews tomorrow. Be safe, be well, have a great rest of the day. KNBR with more coming up next.